Ahoy there, today on the Red Sea, serious replies only. People with confirmed below average intelligence. How has your intelligence affected your life experience? And what would you want the world to know about what it's like to be you? Whoop, I have one for this. I was born with a severe case of hydrocephalus that no one caught on to until I went nearly full potato at 18. And then comatose a few days after when I turned 19. Turns out, all the issues that I had with learning things, memory retention, emotional maturity, etc. that was all affected by the water pressure building up on my brain. I was not being a lazy slacker kid. I worked my ass off to pass my classes and graduate. I just could not process things well, so a lot of it came as difficult for me. In my haze of a memory during the first visit to the neurologist, it was determined that my condition was so severe, I should not have progressed past middle school learning, and most, if not all, people diagnosed with the level of pressurization and compression of the brain as I was were in assisted living facilities just surviving as shells. After needing a second surgery a year later, my brain eventually started firing the signals for mental maturity, but the process was still pretty difficult. Had to learn how I learned best. Things did not process the same way. I have also adapted to overcompensating to make up for the lack of intelligence. Did not have the work smarter option most times, so I just worked harder. It's been about 12 years since the last surgery, and I have grown immensely during that time as a person. But the work harder to overcompensate is still a huge issue for me. We still do not know how off I really am, cause no one caught it early enough, and that's a really isolating feeling. IQ of 87 here. I saw somebody else has 90 IQ. His story is very similar to mine. Words just do not seem to click in college. My brain gets saturated after about 2 hours or so, and I cannot remember any studying past that. There's no chance at studying the last minute, and it's weird to be the smartest in the family despite her obvious flaws. I seem to have zero ability to think outside the box. It happens from time to time, and it's extremely satisfying when it does. Lastly, my working memory and comprehension is not very good, which is what an IQ test is based on. This means when I'm literally at work in my retail job, sometimes I completely forget what I was doing or where I put an object a customer was supposed to get. I have an IQ of 90, which means below average. I sometimes see that other people can memorize and understand stuff faster than me. Same bud. The most annoying thing is when watching slideshows or pop-up things on TV and not be able to read the whole paragraph before it disappears. Pop-up things on TV and not be able to read the whole paragraph before it disappears. No one can read that malarkey. I press pause to read things like that. I have a global information processing disorder. If our brains were computers running at 60 frames per second normally, mine runs around 45 on a good day, not quite enough to really be noticeable, as it might in some people with Down syndrome for the sake of example, but enough to lower my IQ and cause problems in my everyday life. I'm one of the lucky ones. I can function relatively normally, discounting autism and the occasional epileptic seizure. However, I'm also fully aware of this deficit and how high my IQ could be. Talking slowly or getting annoyed because I have asked you to repeat something, or pushing me out of the way when I do not react fast enough. That's just rubbing it in. I cannot change how well I process information, believe me. I have asked my doctor about it, and other people have tried before me. I'm stuck where I'm at in this regard, and it's hard to try harder when I'm already running at 110% just to keep up with the rest of the world. Your writing skills are way above Reddit average. I studied writing in college, got my bachelor's in creative writing last month. I have some things I'm good at and some things I'm bad at. So I figured, why not turn one of the things I'm good at into a career? Do you think writing is a good fit because it gives you the time to slow down and take this time you need? Definitely. Not only that, I'm able to organize my thoughts and words in a way that my brain cannot seem to do while I speak. Writing just cancels out that particular disability. My triplet sister was born with a brain bleed and partial damage to her brain. We were all 3 months premature, and it happened to affect her more than me or my brother. She has a lower IQ and was put in the special education classes in 2nd grade. I would never consider her to be dumb in any way. We have a very close relationship and we communicate very well. She looks completely normal and has really nothing wrong about her besides her lower IQ. We live in a narcissistic household, and she was obviously dubbed as the black sheep and was bullied throughout school as well. When we were younger, I also ganged up on her with the rest of my family because I thought it was normal at 7 years old. We have definitely gotten closer as we have gotten older, and we kinda stick like glue against the rest of our family. We're both very empathetic and kind, and a lot of my other family members are complete bullies, so we seem a tiny out of place. She's doing well now that we have finished high school, and she has gotten a boyfriend recently who seems very kind, and she will hopefully getting a job soon and moving out by next year. It'll be funny to see her be the first one to move out, because everyone always said she would live with my mother forever. I'm proud of her, and I love her. Late to the thread. I was given an intelligence test in 6th or 7th grade. A group of us were given it for some study. The person entering the data into the scoring matrix misplaced a decimal point on mine. They told my mother I had the IQ of a 5-year-old. It took a week for them to figure out the mistake. For a week straight everyone treated me different. I was the one who answered the phone when they called with the correction. My family still brings it up 20 years later. That is very scary, that everyone treated you different, not because of any difference they could perceive in how you acted, but merely because some authority figure told everyone you were basically disabled. People trust authority over what they can see with their own eyes. My IQ is just below average. I'm not great at standardized tests or math. I was not in a special education program, but I got CS in the average non-AP classes. Scraped by in college. Most of my decisions are based on a feeling, and I just have to work much harder to understand things than most people. So I find him just constantly working really hard, but I keep myself open to new ideas and new ways of doing things. But the things I'm good at, I'm really good at, I also try to use it to be funnier in the life of wherever I am. Also, I know this is a cause for shame, but I should also mention, I did not vote in 2016. Not because I'm lazy, but because I did not understand either side's policies or what they represented. I know there's a lot of people saying just vote, but like ... Should I be voting if I do not know exactly what I'm voting for? I would have voted blue because I like to think I'm progressive, but I do not really know what would be different. So now you sort of see how my mind works. Hopefully. I do not know if I'm actually below average, but I have a learning disability. I'm ADHD, and I always struggled really hard in school. I would stay up all night studying my ass off, only to make either a D or an F. Sometimes a C, if I was lucky. I mean, I really studied. I feel like as an adult it's been a bit easier to learn some things, now that I do not have the pressure of tons of schoolwork and teachers assuming I'm lazy and telling me to try harder. I have taught myself how to keep a budget really well. I have taught myself how to start a wrestling business and even track my expenses really well. I feel like I function alright, but am very intimidated by a lot of things that I'm supposed to do as an adult. Anything to do with taxes really scares me because I'm terrified I'll mess them up somehow. I'm really shy in conversations because I have trouble pulling the words out of my brain to explain how I feel about a subject. If I'm writing out what I want to say, I can do pretty well, but speaking it is very intimidating. I have a lot of opinions on things and love to learn different viewpoints on things, but I'm terrified of someone trying to debate me or have a conversation with me about any of those things because I do not know how to repeat anything I have learned. I just have it stored in my brain and cannot put it into words easily. Basically, it's contributed to a lot of my social anxiety, and I have a major inferiority complex. I'm 30 years old, and I feel like such a late bloomer in every possible way. My mom at my age was already married with 2 children and fully established in her life. I'm nowhere near that point. I'm just now learning the basics of being an adult. I feel like all of my 20s was an extension of my teenage years. I feel embarrassed of myself, honestly. I have low IQ, but I was never tested for anything else. My parents are actual geniuses. Both have poor background, but managed to succeed. All my siblings are smart also. I had trouble following teachers and other kids in classes. It took way more time and more examples to figure something out. I never had the time to do anything else than study. I do not think I have had friends since kindergarten. I cannot talk to people. I have trouble understanding most jokes in reasonable amount of time. I never understood deeper meaning in any movies, songs or books, even when somebody explained them to me. The thing that screwed me up the most is the "you can do anything you want if you work hard enough" thing we say to the kids. Because it worked for my parents, they thought it will work for me, and not just them. All motivational speakers, all teachers ... I worked 10 times more, literally, than other kids, so I was actually pretty good in high school. I thought that uni is going to be the same. Just by going there and working hard I will get my degree. What happened was that I could not follow courses after the introductory stuff. I somehow passed the first year, but I was kicked out after second year because my exam results were so bad. I developed several sleep disorders, several addictions, and am in huge debt as a result of my 2 failed years in uni. I cannot even get my driver's license. There are too many things on the road to keep track of. Now I'm jobless. I cannot even get a job as a janitor, and I genuinely do not know what I'm going to do. I had a job at a lumber mill for 2 days until I injured a coworker. I had a job at a restaurant, but I was fired from there also because of my character. My dream was never to earn a lot of money or anything similar. My dreams were things that 99% of people experience, like getting a proper job, so I would not depend on my parents. Getting a degree to make my parents proud and to prove to people that IQ is meaningless. Learning how to drive. Getting married and getting kids. Now all those things are impossible, and I have 50 long years of my miserable life to live. What do you enjoy doing? What do you feel you actually are good at? I'm not good at anything. At home I repeated what we did in school and did my homework. It took me ages for things other people found trivial. I do not care what I do. I would do anything I'm capable of doing, and that pays me enough to rent my own room. I do not enjoy anything anymore. I used to read books, not for enjoyment, but to better myself. It does not matter, because I do not understand them, and I forget everything in few weeks. I'm just a parasite living off my parents' hard-earned money. Not enjoying doing anything is a sign of depression. It seems like you have gone through so much stress and had so much pressure on you. Please try to be kind to yourself and maybe seek out some kind of therapy if you have access to that. I hope you can find something you like doing. I have Asperger's. Please do not be rude when you have to repeat yourself. Do not expect me to get a hint. If I do not get it, break it to me gently. No car radio and talking at the same time. Too much stimulus. May appear to be angry in loud restaurants. Too much stimulus. Am I doing something socially weird? Talk to me about it nicely in private. I probably did not realize it was weird and can stop. Please do not ditch me as a friend when, not if, I screw up. At least try to talk it out. One of my brothers always had a slight mental disability. Maybe you could say below average intelligence. But the things he takes interest in, he often thrives. However, he can struggle to understand things that others would consider almost common sense. He was never diagnosed with anything, or there was never a clear label. I think the worst thing my siblings and I were ever told was that he had some sort of mental disability. Because growing up we were only 2 years apart. For a long time we were best friends. Essentially we were Irish twins. Suddenly, he had something wrong with him, and my siblings treated him slightly different. And so did I. We just assumed that he did not understand things, that we did, etc. Almost similar to how humans treat animals. We are more intelligent, therefore superior. I remember when I was about 13 years old, my brother 15, and we had a massive fight over something silly. In retaliation I said, well, at least I'm not stupid like you. He stormed off and locked himself in the bathroom. Immediately I felt bad and begged him to open the door so I could apologize. I found him crying, and he said to me, I know there's something wrong with me, but I just cannot understand what it is. At that moment my heart broke. I realized how awful I was to have ever put him in such a box over some minor difference. Since then, I do not treat him any different to anyone else. My siblings still treat him differently to each of us, which is a shame, but it often makes me think, who really is the one with the mental deficiency? Because so what, if you struggle with something, we all struggle with something. At the end of it all, He's still my best friend and we both have each other's backs through everything, and I do not trust anyone quite the same that I trust him. We as humans put so much weight on intelligence, although I think it's important to understand everyone's struggle. Sometimes the worst thing we can do is attach a label or a description which can completely diminish their intrinsic value as a person. So I'm writing this for him. To say just treat everyone with respect and consideration. And suddenly things like low IQ or mental disability become obsolete. Whoa, hey, take it easy, it is the end of the video. Do not worry, there are many more. Come aboard the ship for more trips. Like and subscribe for more posts from the Reddit Sea Cove. Thanks for watching.